Hello. First time live on YouTube. I'm sitting here getting some work done and decided to multitask and see how this works and see if it attracts anyone from my subscribers list or anyone who's scrolling through YouTube. But first time on live, I'm Coach Angie with Wounded2Wonderful Coaching, certified grief, resilience, and transitional coach. Even an empowerment strategist for nonprofits, faith-based, and just generalized organizations where I lend my services and insight on how to ensure that leaders stay connected to their why and to the organization's why. I've been doing this since about 2016, so 8 years. Yeah, a little over 8 years I've been supporting, starting off in consulting only for nonprofits and faith-based, and have streamlined into coaching individually, organizations, nonprofits, churches, ministries, whatever the case may be. But enough about me. Just doing a quick live to see if this will attract anyone to join or watch now or later. But I'm going to do a brief talk while I am multitasking. So if you see me glance over, this is perched up here on my laptop. And hopefully the fan of the laptop is not blowing in the mic. But I do have a fan on the ground behind me, so if you hear a hum, that's why. But I wanted to talk about briefly today about securing your healing. A lot of people talk about nowadays securing the bag, securing, the funds, being a go-getter and a gold digger and all of that, GOAL digger. But a lot of people don't talk about securing or protecting the things internally that will prepare you and keep you floating in those hard to endure moments, when those rough times and those rough patches hit us, that life is so known for doing. And securing your healing means what we would talk about on a regular. Anyone in mental health or in coaching or in emotional recovery would talk about what protecting or securing your healing looks like. Of course, number one is the known word boundaries. Setting up and securing those boundaries is the most effective way to secure your healing. But you have to first identify what boundaries you didn't have, where you have dropped the ball in protecting your safe space and creating a safe space and also protecting it. So identifying those areas where we may have fallen short. I know I've fallen short individually, personally, over the years in discovering myself that I failed or I was horrible at creating boundaries because I was just so loving, understanding, happy-go-lucky, easygoing. I was always told I'm very humble, which means like, oh, I can take advantage of you. Looking in retrospect, now I know what that meant. So being told how humble I was, and how unassuming I was as well, was a perfect recipe for takers to take, and for users to use, and for opportunists to have their ideal opportunity. Until I got to a point where I was depleted and almost destroyed my belief and trust in humanity. When I said, okay, I don't want to become a taker. I don't want to become a user. I don't want to become an opportunist. I want to maintain my integrity of who I always am, always was, and who I intend to be. But I want to make sure I secure my healing from those who may have taken advantage and have went a little too far without any reciprocity. So I had to learn over the years, through trial and error, through broken hearts, through crying, through divorce, through lost friendships, through lost family relationships. How do I secure my healing? What are some things that I have not been doing to always end up in this place of where it feels like my peace of mind, my joy, everything about me is at jeopardy and at risk? What am I doing differently? And I realized I was not protecting my healing. I realized I was not taking care of me. In any way you want to look at it, I was not taking care of me. And that led me to really do a strong introspection and reflection on who I had around me, who was pouring into me, and what were they pouring into me? Was it something that I could have, that was beneficial to me? Was it nutritious to my mind, body, and spirit? Were the conversations helping me grow or stay stagnant or stay humble or stay in a place where I would always be here while I poured into individuals who would do this and then go that way while I stay here? And I noticed that several pivotal relationships led me to a place where I realized I was pouring into one-way vessels that had no intention of pouring back, and if they did, it would just be piecemeal to keep me around or keep me inspired enough to say, "Oh, they want me around. They like me. They regard my they want me to be a part of their circle." As long as I keep giving this, as long as I keep saying this, as long as I keep showing up, as long as I keep paying this. And I'm like, why am I in a hamster wheel of relationships and not feeling any benefit from being in those relationships other than feeling depleted, or my wallet feeling empty, or my soul feeling depleted at the end of the day? And that caused me to really get angry with myself, a healthy anger, to say, Angie, there's something that you're doing wrong and doing without proper wisdom and guidance, and you need to figure out what it is and wise up. And until you do that, allow yourself to go offline for a while and allow the chips to fall where they may. And when I made that decision, that conscious decision, in late summer 2021, not even 45 days later, I was filing for divorce. Not even 45 days later, told several people, I don't feel safe around you with my emotions, with my experiences, so I will not be sharing any more details about my life with you. 3 months later, coming up to the date, I lost my mom on September 1st. Technically September 1st, but she was pronounced on September 2nd. And that sent me further into a tailspin of who do I have around me? Because the one person that loved me unconditionally, that I knew, that I loved and have grown to call mommy, was no longer with me. And her love no longer being felt in a living and present form was like a vacuum. Like it was palpable that her love was no longer able to be in a present living form towards me and my children. And that caused me to look at everyone around me like, are you worth my energy, my time, my space, my efforts? Because I realized what I was doing was a one-way street. When it came to loving, giving, and being present, it was a one-way street. And losing my mom 2 years ago really opened my eyes on what her love, how strong her love was for me and for the things concerning me, and how she invested in me and poured into me and prayed and spoke and corrected me, which she never held back on doing. And I look back in retrospect and I'm so grateful for every moment with her. Thankfully that she lived here in Georgia and I lived about an hour away, and I would make my way down there several times a week and make sure I spent ample amount of time with her, especially with her and my girls. And I'm grateful for those times because there's no regrets. I only regret that she wasn't able to celebrate the wins that she prayed that I experienced, that I only experienced after she passed. I experienced some serious wins after her passing, but I can see that it was just a fruition of her prayers. So when it comes to securing my healing, losing her was kind of revived, or just not revived because I wasn't really fully aware of what I needed to do. But when I lost my mom, it awakened something in me that her love and her attention and her pouring and what she gave to me and my daughters was something that I had to aggressively protect and also implement in the lives of my daughters and even raise the bar even more. And that caused me to grade who was around me. There was a saying that I came across years ago, maybe 10 years ago, that life is a stage, right? Shakespeare says life is a stage, but that person went further to say, your audience, you can always choose who gets to sit in your audience, who gets to sit in the front row or VIP section versus those who sit further back, or those who can only spectate from the rafters, or those who may need to be seated outside. And hey, blessings, Francis, Brother Francis over there in UK. Thank you for tuning in. It's my first live ever and just wanted to test it out. But I'm talking about securing your healing and just reflecting on when I lost my mom 2 years ago, almost to the date, September 1st. It really awakened something in me to pay attention to whom I was allowing to pour into me, who I was pouring into, and how often. Was it reciprocal? Was it beneficial? Was it a two-way street? And if it wasn't, I had to take the initiative to sever those ties, or push the pause button, or reseat that person to the rafters, or escort them out of my audience, out of my life, by no longer going into contact. And when I did those things, yes, I grieved the losses of those relationships, not as much as I grieved the loss of my mom, who was the only person I knew loved me unconditionally, but I grieved the loss of knowing that I would never be able to go back to that place of having lack of boundaries, lack of self-awareness, lack of who I am, and not owning up to my full potential. And when I made those drastic changes, I had to sit in that silence. I had to sit in those moments of just self-awareness. And when I did that, yes, it was quiet. Yes, it was lonely, but I was never alone. I allowed the Spirit of God to really speak to me in ways that I was too busy or I had too much going on to even pay attention to. And when I allowed him to speak, and when I allowed him to share with me that his plans for me were always to prosper me, always to bring me to a next level, always to elevate me, but I would not allow it because I thought I needed to divert what was given to me and pour it into someone else, never to receive it back. He had to say, I had to pull everyone away from you. I needed those people to abandon you. I needed those people to cut you off, because if not, you wouldn't have cut them off. You would have found a way to keep it going. You would have found a way to keep giving and pouring of your resources, time, and energy until, again, you're left in this cycle of feeling depleted, rejected, and left out, because you were only giving to takers. And I'm like, whoa. All right. And what else do I need to know? I also learned that no is a complete sentence. I learned the beauty of saying no without explanation. Because of my past and my very tumultuous marriage, I had to become an over-explainer. I had to become an extremely thorough explainer of everything, because I had to prove to not only to myself, but in vain, prove to my ex-spouse that I wasn't crazy, and that details and things that I've known and I've shared, were actually spoken, without not even knowing I was being gaslit to say, all right, you never said that, you never did this, you don't do anything, you never do anything. What are you talking about? There's no proof of that. And I'm like, so I had to take on the persona of overly explaining myself just to prove and to hear verbally and to check off the boxes and to connect the dots that I'm doing what I've supposed to have been doing, and I'm saying what I've supposed to have been saying. That's the big learning lesson that I've learned in this last season, that I didn't have to do that anymore. And I like the feeling of not having to do that. So I secured that and I protected it. And I made sure I tapped into the mindset that fostered that. I had to tap into the mindset that created room for that acknowledgement to be consistent in my life. So, with that being said, those are just some of the lessons that I've shared and learned, but shared today, and shared over time. So I'm going to be using this space a lot more often. Sometimes I'm on Facebook because I'm very inconsistent and very infrequent on Facebook. My viewing numbers have been suppressed But thankfully, the few that have come across my information, it was ideal, timely, and gains, several consistent clients from those efforts. But I want to bring it to YouTube, where I've always been, but just as a consumer, as a viewer, not as someone who contributed to the platform. So prayerfully, what I contribute here will be received and accepted and shared with others. So if this video, when you see the replay, if it blesses you in any way, feel free to share it with someone who needs to know that they need to secure their healing by protecting their boundaries, by rearranging who has access to them, by making drastic changes that will be for the long-term, short and long-term benefit for you and those closest to you. If you're a parent, you have to secure and protect your environment and your energy for the ones that you are pouring life into and nurturing and protecting. So when they become of age, that they will know without a shadow of a doubt that they were loved fiercely and protected by someone who, their parent, who only meant them well. So with that being said, I don't even know where the end button is for this, but I hope and pray that this video has blessed you. Feel free to follow my platform here, Wounded to Wonderful with Coach Angie. I look forward to coming back and having another conversation very soon. I think it's the X I have to hit. And I will try to do lives maybe a couple times a week and see how the algorithm responds to me. All right, if you'd like to stay connected, I'm wounded2wonderful.com. That's wounded, the number 2, wonderful.com. Click around there on my website. You'll be able to see my offerings, what I offer, my literature, my books, my podcast that's still getting a lot of listens that I probably need to add some new material to, but it's still relevant nonetheless. And you'll be able to probably purchase a book or two if you'd like, or just connect with me for coaching and or consulting. All right, so all the best. Thank you. Happy Monday. Make it a great rest of your week, or whatever day you're watching this. Let the next 7 days be your best 7 days until we do it again. All right, all the best. God bless.